the form of your work takes on quite kind of manageable smaller sizes to larger 20-foot pieces of canvas or cloth with drawing on. Can you tell me a little bit about your process and how you start to work on a work that is this size?
For a work of this size, I mean, usually, for instance, since I'm working the black, white, and red, I start with the icons, but I don't want the icons necessarily to be the forefront of the information. It's like playing in and out. It's like the icons are the issue that draws you in, but then the detail. For instance, for this particular piece, I would have it rolled up, and this one is called Exquisite Thought, which is the idea. I was sitting on my bed, and I laid it out, and I opened up the canvas, each area, and I would work in each section. Like, for instance, working from here, it would start off as simple as areas like here, and then it would expand. But I would just keep moving in and around the piece. So it's sort of mixed up, but I mean, I like Christian Schumann. Christian Schumann intertwines the imagery in such a way of, like, for instance, Spider-Man's arm with Wonder Woman's leg, with, you know, and he combines that thing. I mean, to him, to looking at Kara Walker's work, or to looking at Bill Viola video work. So it intertwines in terms of information. But like I had said before, like, it is an information age. So if anything I'm going to draw my icons from, it's usually from this thing called a Henry Dreyfuss source book, which I was influenced by following the works of Jean-Michel Basquiat. And following him within his works, I found that some of the sources that he used, which was Henry Dreyfuss source book. Henry Dreyfuss was an industrialist. And he basically, from the little tags on the back of our clothes to little icons that are used, which are universal, I use these icons, but I try to make them into my own language, a different language, that I can reference to and that I can have an understanding to, and I hope that other people have a reference to. But in terms of looking to one particular reference at this particular point, no, can't really think of anyone. I mean, there's so many people that I like, and so many influences that I like, but I reference it down to the concept of the icons in the comic books. Comic books are definitely a big thing in terms of how I like in terms of working for images and for playing in and around images. But, you know, again, it's two major sources: the Henry Dreyfuss source book, comic books, magazines, you know, whatever I can find my hands in terms of the drawing of it and the shooting. And then also made-up characters, like this is like a made-up character. Made-up character. You know, this is Lenny Bruce. Incorporate Lenny Bruce in there. I'll copy the jacket of one of his old books. And I copied it and that, and sort of played around that. And made-up characters and made-up characters. Again, these are kind of made-up.
Are any of the texts that we see on any of these pieces, are they from conversation that you really had or you overheard, or are they kind of imagined?
Some of them are imagined, some of them are overheard. So it's an aspect of all of that. And it's intertwining everything. I kind of heard this conversation here between these two guys, you know, on a subway. You know, how does the iconographer end up a window cleaner? You know, this kind of thing, you know. It's like the concept of immigrating into the United States.
Right.
Now, you know, I ride the M1 bus, which just goes from way up from 147th Street all the way down Madison Avenue, and you see the intertwining and changing in culture and who have and the have-nots and what happens with that. So I kind of play in and around that aspect. Like, for instance, for how I came up with this particular thing here. Immigration status, this sort of African-American woman taking care of this young Caucasian young man. It's sort of like, you see so many, you know, women from third world nations taking care of children, but you see so many of the mothers taking care of the dogs. So it's like it's like a weird kind of play on in terms of, I think about these things, and I keep all journals. I keep a lot of journals, and I write down information, and I carry the journal with me, and I write down quotes, or I'll do a form of poetry. In my own kind of language, and sort of play off that. So again, actually, to go back to the relationship of influences, a lot of writers are definitely an influence. I'm blanking right now in terms of writers I can think of that I like. Ralph Ellison, for sure. Paul Bowles. Charles Bukowski. I mean, there's different aspects in terms of that thing. I think Bukowski's a different influence because it's sort of something that intertwined in terms of what I found when I was, I'll say it, when I was in psychiatric ward. And I mean, that became a close book. A book, it was like living on the edge and not knowing where to go. You know, it was just like that aspect, and that became part of it, part of the language too, and incorporating so many different things.
Right. Sure.
Maybe I'm talking too much, but.
No, it's all good. It's good to have this. After seeing the work, no, I wanted to also ask you, this piece particularly is, you've taken drawings that you've already done elsewhere. Are they applied onto this to largen it? These pieces that I see.
This was actually, this area was a separate pieces of paper. I would, like for instance, if I'm working sometimes, I started pasting these papers together, these pieces of paper all together, and then I taped them all down, and then I started drawing. But areas that I didn't like, I cut out.
I see.
I cut out those areas, and then I decided to impose them on here. That's what I did with this particular one. And pushed it in here with the gel medium and applied it on here, and then worked in on it and kind of intertwined these two separate drawings in with the detail in here, and try to combine them in somehow with the little icons. These kind of little icons, which some people have made reference to Turkish reference, to an Asian reference. I also, I mean, I look at it more as a mass doodle.
Yes.
And it's sort of like, you know, you're sitting on the phone talking to a friend, and
you're filling in the corners of places.
So I sort of look at it like that kind of aspect. And I like the act of doing that mass doodling on the piece.
Right.
And I like it as a real nice filler. I really enjoy that as a filler. Okay.
Oh, you did win. And this went like this.